If you're innovating, creating, or making a difference, this show is for you. Welcome to Over Coffee. I'm Dot Cannon. Here on Over Coffee, we talk with artists and innovators about the process of changing the world in terms of what they do.
For the past 700 years, humanity has been correcting sight. Lexilens corrects something different. Lexilens corrects the neurovision, that is the visual processing in the brain. So Lexilens erases the neurovisual crowding instantaneously, universally also, because it doesn't depend on your age or your mother tongue or whatever. You know, some kids, they tell me when I put Lexilens on, words stop being naughty. They become kind. They are okay for me to read them.
What if the next time you had to read something, the letters wouldn't hold still? Dyslexia affects millions of people around the world, impacting both academic and professional success. But from Bonn, France, comes an exciting innovation. MedTech startup Abe has created Lexilens, patented neurovisual enhancement glasses designed to help users with dyslexia read with enhanced clarity. On LinkedIn, Lexilens creators have said these award-winning smart glasses are to reading as noise canceling is to sound. And Abe is shipping their new innovation, a smart monitor, in the U.S. Michael Kadoshian is the founder and CEO of Abe. Michael, how did you, as an industrial engineer and entrepreneur, first become inspired to use your creative talents to create smart eyewear?
You know, I've been wearing eyewear since I'm like 3 years old. But with the evolution of electronics, I mean, it became quite clear at some point that it became smaller and smaller. And this item that we wear on our face every day, this is the ideal vehicle to host additional functionalities. This is the ideal thing that we can augment somehow with wellness and health functionalities. So in 2016, I crossed the road of another entrepreneur here in France. It's the head of Atoll, Atoll is an optician retail network. And these guys are interested in innovation. So we agreed that I would, found a startup and build smart eyewear, and he would be interested in distributing them.
What do you remember best from those early days of your company, Abe? What was that like for you?
It was really exciting because everything was to be built. Let me give you a very short anecdote. You know, Abe, where does it come from? Abe in French, it sounds like the honeybee. You know, the honeybee. And my ambition at first was to build, just like the honeybee. The honeybee brings something that is obvious to most people, it's the honey. But it also brings a very important service to humanity, which is the pollination of flowers, in a very humble manner. It's a small insect, it doesn't make any noise, and so on. And my ambition was actually to make the same, but for eyewear. That is, build eyewear that brings the obvious, correction, but also an important service to the user, something related to health and wellness, in a very discreet manner, that is unnoticeable, that you wouldn't create stigmatization or that wouldn't be bulky, cumbersome, something that goes, easy. So I think what we have built now, maybe not 100%, but we're on the right track. So at first it was very exciting because everything was to be built and we actually didn't know about the technology, the Lexilens at first. And we started building eyewear for elderly people, an eyewear that would detect when you fall down, both hard falling, but also soft falling. Soft falling is when you somehow lose balance and you try to catch the chair or the table, but in the end, you just slide to the floor. So this is called soft falling. So we were able to detect this, and this was our first step into smart eyewear. But for some reason, it didn't work out commercially. And then came this discovery in France by a research team, and it went almost unnoticed. Except, life is weird. This very summer, 2017, I can remember, I broke my knee. And I was stuck on the chair for a few months. I couldn't walk. So I read a lot. And then one day I opened the newspaper and there is like 5 lines, talking about, there is a team of lab researchers. They discovered this and this. Of course, they didn't talk about eyewear. They talked about the brain. But for some reason, it struck me. I said, oh, this is something much bigger than what it says. So I remember taking the train with my clutches, going to the next city to meet them and convince them that what they had discovered could lead to eyewear, and I was the guy that could help them. And so it was like an adventure. So we talked and talked, and then finally we agreed. And well, the adventure started like this.
Now, the adventure was the creation of Lexilens. This is a technology where you can correct some types of dyslexia so folks can read. What was that
Yes.
like, developing Lexilens? What was the creative process like?
It's both very rewarding and challenging because, of course, at the very start, you're facing R&D challenges. You have to you iterate, you make so many prototypes. Some of them work, some of them work differently, not so good. So you have to correct. And so you have to somehow have the faith, as an entrepreneur. It's not a straight line. So you're facing obstacles every day, and sometimes R&D, sometimes financially, some other times people, so whatever. But you have inside a drive that motivates you every morning. And when you wake up, and the turning point was really at some point, the prototype was good enough so that in the lab, when the researchers met some children that were dyslexic, the kids, they would try the glasses, just to say, okay, this is doing good, this is not so good, etc., etc. And the turning point was, I remember once, there was this young girl, she was 9, and she reads, like her father was crying. Okay, anyway. And so that was already good. That was already very good, but still even better. So she stops reading and she turns to me with a big smile, big banana on her face. And so I was expecting that she would tell me, oh, I'm so happy, I'm able to read. And, not at all. She tells me straight in the eye, she tells me now, very proud, now I will be like my friends. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, that was a really milestone because this is the day I realized that not only we were on the right track, but also I realized that dyslexia actually has consequences way beyond reading, way beyond learning. It impacts your self-esteem, your self-confidence, how you integrate with society, how you project yourself in the future. Nowadays, in our society, all knowledge, it used to be transferred from generation to generation verbally, but now it's all written. If you can't read, if you can't easily access what is written, then somehow it's more difficult to integrate. And this girl, she said exactly this. She said, now I will be like my friends. I will feel included. I have my say in society. I have my say in my classroom. And well, this changed a lot. So this kind of events, they boost you because in the days when you have challenges, definitely these kind of testimonials, they change it all.
That experience has to be right up there with all the awards you won for Lexilens. That is incredible. Which, by the way, I've counted at least 3 awards, including the CES Innovation Award in 2020 that you won with this, and you continue to innovate from there. What don't people understand about dyslexia? For example, I didn't know that it's not a one size fits all, that everybody experiences it differently, as your website says. But what do you see that people don't really get about dyslexia?
Well, dyslexia has a wide range of symptoms. I mean, I'm no expert in dyslexia. I've met quite a lot, but some people they can read, but they don't understand. Some others they have difficulties to read. Some others they say letters are jumping around. They are skipping the lines. It all comes in, I would say, wide range of symptoms, and also it can go from mild to severe. So it's very, very wide. Still, it appears that over the past few years now, from experience, I came to the conclusion that Lexilens can help most of them. And, for example, some people say, okay, I put your glasses and I don't read faster. So it's not working. And then I tell them, it takes years to learn how to read. For anyone, it takes years. Learning how to read, what does it mean? It means by practice every day with providing effort, you build in your brain some lexicals. Lexicals that somehow is like a database, let's say, of phonemes, so how it sounds, semantic, what it means, like the association, many dictionaries somehow. And these dictionaries need to be built. And of course, it would be absurd to claim that, okay, you put the glasses on, and then suddenly you will be able to read just like as if you were never dyslexic. That this is absurd. Because all these years that your friend has studied hard, I mean, you can't, it's not magic. What it does, of course, it does clean the input. Of course, because you're reading, right? So you need to get the input of the text you're reading. So it cleans the input. We can come back to this later, but it just cleans the input. The dictionaries are the ones you build over the course of years. So, of course, it needs to be adjusted in the future. But for the moment, you're reading with your past. You're reading with your acquired capability. So, and this is the one of someone who was dyslexic for years. So maybe you don't read that much quicker. But all of them confirm it. So yeah, indeed, I don't read much faster, but it just flows. I read more easily. I can focus better. I can read longer text without being tired, exhausted. And I understand as I read. I understand as I don't have to read 2-3 times the same sentence to understand what it means. So, of course, this makes a big difference because when you're learning, when you're reading a book or working, of course, not only do you save time, but also somehow it just builds back your confidence. I mean, you don't feel slowed down somehow.
If I were sitting right now at your booth at CES, let's say that I come to your booth and you're going to show me Lexilens and I put it on. What's happening? And let's assume that I am mildly dyslexic. What's going to happen? What's it going to do? And how is it working?
Okay. So let's say you are suffering you have reading challenges and you try Lexilens for the first time. You might, for example, you might experience stabilization of the text. That is, you would say, well, before letters were jumping, I was skipping lines. It was a bit crowded. And suddenly it's clear. It's clean. It's not crowded anymore. And letters are stable. It's all stable. I can just see better. You would experience this. And when you start reading, some kids, they tell me when I put Lexilens on, words stop being naughty. They become kind. They are okay for me to read them. Yeah, you would experience something that another child, it's a girl again, she was, I think, 11 or 12. She told me at first time, she said, wow, is this really what it looks like? Because, yes, because it's literally the first time ever that she sees how the word is written. Because before it was always crowded, it was all messy. And suddenly it's all clean. So you might say, and people listening to us might wonder, I mean, what does he mean by this? Because, I mean, if I put my glasses on, it's all clean also. The thing is, for the past 700 years, humanity has been correcting sight in the eye, with the glasses that you're wearing, the ones that I'm wearing. This is for the past 700 years, but this corrects sight. Lexilens corrects something different. Lexilens corrects the neurovision, that is the visual processing in the brain. It can correct sight if we add prescription lenses, that's of course, but its primary usage is not to correct sight, it's to correct the neurovision in the brain. what the researchers, what we discovered is that when we see the raw signal, the photons are captured by our retina in our eye, and then the eyes, they send signals to the brain to process it and to process this, let's say, analog signal into data that is the image. And the image is then provided or supplied to the brain, to the downstream cognitive tasks. To say, okay, do what you have to do. Find your balance, find your posture, walk, read, learn, all these tasks. And so the data, the image, is, let's say, the raw material for the brain. And the vision represents 80% of the data that is processed by the brain. So there are two stages. The first one is the sight. This we know how to correct. And there is the visual processing. And so far, until their discovery, okay, we knew it could be messy, but we actually didn't know much. And suddenly they discovered one phenomenon that is called the neurovisual crowding. So what is it? All kids up to, let's say, 6 years old, approximately, I don't know if you have kids, but, the kids when very young, they can mix up letters, they can write backwards, they mix, right and left. And this comes from the fact that at some point, the two eyes send information to the visual cortex at the back of the brain, and the visual cortex processes it. But also, visual cortex is split into two hemispheres of the brain. And these visual areas, they also exchange information. So there is the right part that sends info to the left part and vice versa. So we have the visual areas that build the primary image by merging both signals from the two eyes. But you also have the projections, that is the exchange of information, that creates a second image that gets superimposed with the first one. Yeah. When they reach 6, and this is the crowding that causes the difficulty to distinguish between this letter or this letter, because it's all crowded. It's as if, imagine you are in the classroom. You are sitting in the classroom, and I write a lesson on the chalkboard. Yeah, but very important, I didn't wipe it clean first. There is the previous lesson already, and I write on top, and it's all crowded. I say, please read, but how can I read? It's all messy, so I won't read. I will decipher. It will take longer, it will be difficult to understand. Sometimes I will even hesitate and not be able to distinguish, is it a B or D or what is it? So it's a long process, very heavy in terms of cognitive tasks. This is what they live on a daily basis. And Lexilens does only one thing, it just wipes clean the chalkboard so that what is written is only written this. So I come back to the child. When they reach 6 years old, approximately, these projections, they disappear. They disappear thanks to an anatomy particularity in the eye that provides what we call in physics symmetry breaking. It's, maybe too long to explain, but the nature is not symmetric. Nature needs symmetry breaking at some point. And we are all either right-handed or left-handed. The body is not symmetric. We need symmetry breaking. And they discovered that in the eye, there is a very tiny area at the center of the fovea that is called the Maxwell centroid. And the Maxwell centroid is an area where there are no blue cones. Well, I don't want to go too much into the details, but basically, they discovered that most people have these areas that are non-symmetric. That is, for example, on one eye, I have a large round shape, and on the other one, I have a potato. So it's not symmetric. And this is precisely this lack of symmetry that enables the brain to erase the projections that created the neurovisual crowding. But when you reach 6 years old, but you are lacking the symmetry breaking, then these projections remain. And you go on with it. So you continue learning how to read with neurovisual crowding, and this makes your life very difficult. So Lexilens erases the neurovisual crowding instantaneously, universally also, because it doesn't depend on your age or your mother tongue or whatever. It just erases it. And that's all it does. Of course, because some people ask me, Lexilens, how can it distinguish the letters? Lexilens doesn't distinguish anything. It just erases the neurovisual crowding. And it's up to you, of course, to make the job, to distinguish. Of course, if you don't know how to read, Lexilens won't read for you. Huh?
Lexilens gets rid of the visual noise and I read what I see.
Yes.
Got it. We should emphasize, you made a reference to it a second ago, but this is for children and for adults. And
Yes.
also available in the United States for the eyewear. What I'm wondering, you came to CES this year with something that I saw that you introduced, I believe, in 2023, the Lexilens Smart Screen.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, indeed. We were able to embed Lexilens technology into a screen, into a computer monitor. And it's quite impressive, actually. It works very well. The thing is, for example, in a corporate environment or libraries or even working at home, it's, let's say, less stigmatizing, first of all, and you don't have to wear anything. It's either or. You take your glasses for reading a book, but if you're working on a computer, you don't wear anything. It works from remote. So the filter that we are applying in Lexilens glasses, it is included in the screen. So we've made tests, for example, where we have on the screen a Microsoft Word document, and we printed it out. So we have side by side, the screen and the paper. And we have adults, they were able to read easily on the screen. It was very difficult to read the paper. Voila, it's simple to use, it works just like any monitor. You just plug it to HDMI or to your computer and it just works and you can read. I want somehow to contribute to a better world. And of course, I feel almost sorry, but yes, we have to sell it because it costs us money to manufacture. But my goal in life is not to become a billionaire. Actually, I don't care. But we don't want to sell promises or, to oversell. Or there are enough dyslexics in the world so that I don't have to sell to someone who doesn't need it. So online, we offer 30-day money-back guarantee. That is, you purchase it, you have 30 days to try it, and if they're happy, they're fine. If you find it beneficial, perfect. If they are not happy, we can return it and we reimburse. And we have today less than 2% returns.
And 36 plus countries, if I'm not mistaken, where you sell. Lexilens.com.
Yeah, 44 now. 44 countries.
When you talk about your vision and making a better world, which, by the way, is not silly at all, what would you really love to do in the future with Lexilens? Where do you want to take this that you haven't yet?
There are so many countries where we're not, and also I want to make it more accessible. Actually, there are so many needs everywhere, so many kids that could blossom at school, So I want to democratize it. I want to make it part, today, you and I are wearing eyewear. But for sure, 700 years ago, this was only for a happy few. I want to make it, as a commodity as our eyewear are. It's something that helps humanity, So I want to make it accessible, affordable, widely available. And for this, if I follow my path, it is slow. This is why also I'm looking for funding, to accelerate and to make it even more affordable. And to, in the industry, when you are into hardware, there are no secrets. If you want to make it affordable, you have to produce in volume. There's no magic wand. So, yeah, some countries are very interested, but I am too expensive and I can't sell below my production costs,
Michael shared what motivates him the most.
Let me give you just one last anecdote.
Please.
I remember, at the beginning, I told you that in the lab, we had these prototypes and kids were coming and trying the glasses. And another time, there was this boy. I'm telling you this anecdote because it really struck me. So the boy is reading, very happy, it just flows, everybody's happy. The parents are extremely impressed. If I say it's the first time we can hear my son reading like this, okay, fine. I wouldn't say I don't want to underestimate the value what I'm saying, but okay. But then the father tells me, so can we leave with the glasses? So of course not. I mean, this is a prototype. I mean, we're working on it. It's not the final product. We still have work to do on it. So hurry up now. Huh? We need it. My son needs it. Hurry up. Hurry up because my son is hiding in the toilets to play. So I said, well, what are you talking about? You don't understand. Let me explain. My son is having difficulties. So once or even twice a week sometimes, he has these appointments with the speech therapists. Homework takes hours. Then comes the bath. Then comes the dinner. And sometimes he has sports. And in the end, there is no time slot for him to play, just play as a kid. So in his mind of a child, he concluded, for some reason, that he was not allowed to play. And therefore, he's hiding in the toilet to play. So the father was really like, we have to do something. I mean, this is so sad when you have your own child believing that he's not allowed to play and is hiding to. So he said, hurry up, we need these glasses. So, of course, we hurried up. We did everything that we needed to do. But yeah, so this kind of anecdote really gives some, perspective on the impact also, because it does impact the whole family. Everybody's impacted. So it's not only reading, it's living. So this is also what I like. And very regularly we receive emails, letters from parents around the world telling us how beneficial Lexilens was for their kids. I mean, one grandmother wrote to us a letter. It was in September. She said, my granddaughter always dreamed of becoming a nurse. Okay. But then she quit. She quit her studies because she thought that she wasn't able, she wasn't fit, she wouldn't succeed. And then I offered her your glasses and she resumed. And now she's fulfilling your dream. When you receive this kind of letter, I mean, you say, okay, I've made my day. What else can you expect? If you can help only one kid, that's already a lot. That's enough.
That is fantastic.
So this is the kind of things that we're doing. And as I said, this is very fulfilling. In my previous jobs, I have many job lives, but at once I was working in oil and gas for like 10, 15 years. And I remember my daughter, she made me stop because she said, you're polluting the planet. So I told myself, you have to listen to the next generation. So I changed. And actually, she was true because now when I wake up in the morning, I know why. There is some meaning, there is some energy that makes me move forward. So it's good. I like it.
Got to be the ultimate happiness to wake up and know your work is changing the future in a good way.
Yes.
Did the young man get his Lexilens so he doesn't have to hide in the toilet anymore to play?
Of course.
I kind of thought so. Final question is the signature question for my podcast. If people could only get one thing from you about innovation, creativity, and making a difference, what would you really love for them to take away from the work you're doing with Abe and Lexilens?
Actually, there are two ways to answer to this question. On one hand, I could answer, on what I do, on the content. But also, this is a very intimate question. So I will answer both. What I would like people to take away is that science can be turned into progress, and innovation needs to be useful. I mean, there are so many innovations that are, to me, I'm sorry, that are useless. Okay, it's gimmicks and it's nice to have, nice to play with, for 5 minutes. But I'm really into building for the future. So what I would like people to remember is that there are new solutions, and it can be tested with very low risk, because 30 days to try, if not happy, you return, no problem. And so if you're suffering from reading challenges, dyslexia, dyspraxia, this galaxy of symptoms, give it a try. Give it a try. You might be surprised. The second thing is the more intimate answer. Beyond what I'm doing, I think, as I grew up with age, I realized that at some point, if you want to bring meaning to your life, somehow you need to be bold. You need to be radical. You need to take decisions, right? You need to commit to something. And when you do this, it's not an easy journey, but it's a very rewarding one. It brings meaning. It brings fulfillment. It creates connection with society, with life. You feel things, instead of doing things. It's a journey that is not easy, for sure, but definitely worth it.
Michael, thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. With pleasure. Thank you so much for these questions. It's really a pleasure to share personal experience like this.
You and I have been listening to Michael Kadoshian, founder and CEO of optical startup Abe, based in Beaune, France, and creator of Lexilens smart eyewear. Find out more about Lexilens neurovisual enhancement glasses at lexilens.com. Once again, lexilens.com. And that concludes this edition of Over Coffee. Thank you for listening. Listen to more Over Coffee podcasts at twomavericks.com. That's 2 TWO Mavericks, Maverix. Be sure you subscribe. It's free by clicking the link on our website. Our music is royalty-free production music provided by Pond5 at pond5.com. I'm Dot Cannon. Here's wishing you a cappuccino day.